The city of New York buzzed with energy as the sun began to set, casting a golden glow over towering skyscrapers. People filled the streets, their laughter and chatter blending with the hum of hovercars overhead. It was a night of celebration, a gala held at the Grand Stellar Hall to mark 50 years of peace between humanity and the alien races of the galaxy. For Ethan Carter, a diplomat known for his calm demeanor and sharp mind, it was both an honor and a responsibility to attend. Ethan adjusted his suit as he stood near one of the large windows, looking out at the sprawling city below. His wife, Lily, approached him, her soft smile lighting up her face. She handed him a glass of sparkling water and leaned against the railing beside him. "You seem lost in thought," she said gently. "Are you worried about something?" He hesitated before answering. "It's hard not to be. The truce has lasted this long, but there are whispers everywhere tonight. Some say the colonies on the edge of our territory aren't respecting the agreements we made with the Galactic Council." Lily frowned slightly. "Do you think they're just rumors, or is there truth to them?" "I wish I could say they're just rumors," Ethan replied, taking a sip of his drink. "But if even half of what I've heard is true, then we're walking a dangerous line. Humanity has worked so hard to rebuild trust after the wars. One wrong move, and everything could fall apart." As they spoke, groups of people moved around the room, dressed in elegant attire. Holographic displays floated above tables, showing images of historic moments when humans and aliens had come together to sign treaties or share technology. The atmosphere was festive, but beneath the surface, tension lingered. Conversations occasionally drifted toward recent reports of skirmishes near the neutral zones, areas meant to separate human space from that of other species. A man in a dark blue uniform approached them. It was Daniel Harper, a senior advisor to Earth's High Command. He gave Ethan a curt nod. "We need to talk," he said quietly, glancing around to ensure no one was listening too closely. Ethan excused himself from Lily and followed Daniel to a quieter corner of the hall. "What's going on?" Ethan asked, his voice low. Daniel crossed his arms. "There's been activity near the Krillian border. Unofficial ships, human ships, have been spotted mining resources in restricted areas. If the Krillians find out, it won't end well." Ethan felt a knot form in his stomach. "Who authorized this?" "We agreed decades ago not to exploit those regions." "That's the problem," Daniel muttered. "No one did, at least not officially. But someone high up is funding these operations, and if word gets out, it'll look like Earth sanctioned it." Ethan ran a hand through his hair, feeling the weight of the situation pressing down on him. "This could ruin everything we've built. What options do we have?" Daniel sighed. "For now, keep quiet. Let us handle it internally. Just focus on keeping the peace here. You're good at that, aren't you?" Ethan nodded reluctantly, though doubt gnawed at him. As he returned to Lily, he forced a smile, trying to push aside his worries for the evening. But deep down, he couldn't shake the feeling that the fragile harmony they celebrated tonight was teetering on the brink of collapse. Somewhere out there, beyond the glittering lights of the city, forces were at work that could shatter the truce and bring the galaxy back to war. Far above the glowing lights of Earth, the starship Pioneer drifted silently through the vast emptiness of space. Its sleek metallic frame reflected the faint light of a distant star as it patrolled along the edge of human-controlled territory. Inside the command center, Captain Rachel Dawson stood with her hands clasped behind her back, staring at the main screen that displayed a map of nearby space. Her sharp eyes scanned the readings for anything unusual. Rachel had served in the fleet for over 15 years, earning a reputation for her steady leadership and quick thinking. But tonight, something felt different. The sensors had picked up strange energy signatures coming from a region near the neutral zone, a buffer area shared between humans and the Krillians, an alien species known for their pride and strict adherence to boundaries. Rachel tapped her communicator. "Lieutenant Cole, what do we know about those readings?" The young officer adjusted his glasses and typed quickly on his console. "It's hard to say, Captain. They're faint, but they match the profile of mining equipment. If I had to guess, someone is extracting resources out there." Rachel frowned. Mining in the neutral zone was strictly forbidden by the Galactic Council. If humans were breaking the rules, it could spark a conflict with the Krillians. She turned to her second-in-command, Commander Paul Jenkins. "Send a probe to investigate. Let's get a clearer picture before we jump to conclusions." Minutes later, the probe transmitted images back to the ship. What they saw confirmed their worst fears. Several small vessels, marked with symbols indicating they belonged to human colonies, were actively drilling into asteroids within the restricted area. Rachel clenched her jaw. This wasn't just a minor violation. It was a blatant disregard for the truce. She contacted Earth's High Command immediately, sending them the evidence. To her surprise, the response came swiftly, but not in the way she expected. "Stand down, Captain Dawson," the voice on the other end ordered. "This matter will be handled diplomatically. Do not engage or escalate the situation." Rachel stared at the screen, stunned. "Sir, if the Krillians discover this, it could lead to war. We need to intervene now." "That's not your decision to make," the officer replied coldly. "Your orders are clear. Stay out of it." Frustrated, Rachel cut the transmission and turned to her crew. "We'll keep monitoring the area," she told them firmly. "But we follow orders. For now." Privately, she wondered how long they could avoid trouble. The Krillians weren't known for turning a blind eye to trespassers. Back on Earth, Ethan Carter sat in his office, poring over classified documents he had managed to obtain through unofficial channels. His heart sank as he read through the details. Rogue elements within Earth's military had been secretly funding illegal operations in the neutral zone, using colonists as proxies to exploit valuable minerals. These resources were being funneled back to Earth, enriching powerful corporations while risking open war with the Krillians. Ethan leaned back in his chair, rubbing his temples. He knew exposing this conspiracy would come at a cost. Powerful people wouldn't hesitate to silence him if they felt threatened. Yet doing nothing meant allowing humanity to stumble blindly into disaster. He thought about Lily and the future they dreamed of, a future where peace endured. Could he really sit idly by while others dismantled everything they had fought so hard to achieve? Determined, Ethan reached out to Senator Harold Grayson, one of the key figures suspected of involvement. When they met in a private chamber, Ethan laid out the evidence plainly. "If this comes to light, it won't just be me who pays the price," he said evenly. "Humanity will bear the consequences." Grayson studied him for a moment, then leaned forward. "You think you can stop this? You're playing a dangerous game, Ethan. Some battles aren't meant to be fought. Not if you value your life." Ethan held his ground, though unease prickled at the edges of his mind. He realized then that the battle for peace wouldn't be won easily. It would require sacrifices, and courage he wasn't sure he possessed. But as he left the meeting, one thing became clear. The fragile balance holding the galaxy together was beginning to crack. The tension aboard the Pioneer grew thicker with each passing hour. Captain Rachel Dawson paced the command deck, her mind racing as she tried to make sense of the situation. The illegal mining ships were still active in the neutral zone, their presence a ticking time bomb waiting to explode. Every instinct told her to act, but her orders were clear: do nothing. For the first time in her career, Rachel felt trapped between duty and morality. Her thoughts were interrupted when Lieutenant Cole called out from his station. "Captain, we've got movement on the scanners. A Krillian patrol ship is approaching the area." Rachel's stomach tightened. The Krillians were known for their strict enforcement of boundaries. If they discovered the human vessels mining in the neutral zone, it could escalate into violence. She turned to Commander Jenkins. "Hail them. Let's see if we can defuse this before it gets worse." Moments later, the face of a Krillian officer appeared on the main screen. His sharp features and deep-set eyes conveyed both authority and suspicion. "Human vessel Pioneer *. Explain your presence here," he demanded in accented but clear English. Rachel straightened, maintaining a calm demeanor. "We're conducting routine patrols, ensuring compliance with the truce. We noticed unusual activity in this sector and decided to investigate." The Krillian's expression darkened. "Unusual activity. Our sensors show multiple ships extracting resources from asteroids within our shared territory. This violates the terms of the agreement." Rachel hesitated, unsure how much to reveal. "We're aware of the situation and have reported it to our superiors. Rest assured, appropriate actions are being taken." The Krillian narrowed his eyes. "Your words mean little without action. If these violations continue, we will consider it an act of aggression." Before Rachel could respond, the transmission ended abruptly. She let out a frustrated sigh and turned to her crew. "We need to keep monitoring this. If things get heated, we may have to step in, orders or not." Meanwhile, back on Earth, Ethan Carter faced a storm of his own. After confronting Senator Grayson, he had returned home to find Lily waiting anxiously in the living room. She looked up as he entered, concern etched on her face. "What happened?" she asked softly. Ethan sank onto the couch beside her, running a hand through his hair. "It's worse than I thought. Grayson isn't just involved. He's leading the operation. He made it clear that exposing the truth would come at a cost." Lily placed a comforting hand on his arm. "Then why don't you stop? You've done all you can. Isn't that enough?" "It's not enough," Ethan replied, his voice firm despite the weight of his decision. "If I stay silent, we're no better than those risking war for profit. I have to expose this, even if it costs me everything." Lily didn't argue further, knowing how deeply Ethan believed in doing what was right. Instead, she helped him gather the documents he needed to leak to the press. Together, they encrypted the files and sent them to trusted journalists who specialized in uncovering corruption. As the hours passed, Ethan began to feel a glimmer of hope. Maybe, just maybe, public outrage could force the government to shut down the illegal operations before it was too late. But that hope was short-lived. News outlets started reporting on the leaked information almost immediately, sparking widespread debate. While some praised Ethan's bravery, others accused him of treason, claiming he was undermining Earth's security. Senator Grayson wasted no time retaliating. He held a press conference, denying any involvement and painting Ethan as a reckless idealist who didn't understand the complexities of interstellar politics. The media circus only added fuel to the fire, dividing public opinion and increasing tensions across the globe. On board the Pioneer Rachel received updates about the fallout on Earth. She watched the news feeds with growing unease, realizing that the fragile peace she had sworn to protect was slipping away. The Krillians were already suspicious, and now humanity itself seemed divided. As she stared out at the endless void of space, Rachel couldn't shake the feeling that they were standing on the edge of something far bigger and far more dangerous than anyone realized. The neutral zone was supposed to be a place of calm, a buffer where neither humans nor Krillians could operate without permission. But now it had become a powder keg ready to ignite. The Krillian patrol ship moved closer to the human mining vessels, its sleek silver hull glinting under the light of a nearby star. On board the Pioneer Captain Rachel Dawson watched the scene unfold on her screen, her hands gripping the edge of the console. "Captain, the Krillians are hailing the mining ships," Lieutenant Cole reported, his voice tense. "They're demanding an explanation." Rachel nodded, her jaw tight. She knew this moment would come, but she hadn't expected it so soon. Through the communication feed, they heard the Krillian officer's stern voice addressing the human crews. "You are violating the terms of the truce by operating in restricted space. Power down your equipment and prepare for inspection." One of the mining ship captains responded, his tone defensive. "We're just conducting routine surveys. There's no harm here." "No harm." The Krillian snapped. "Your actions threaten the stability of this region. You will comply immediately, or we will take action." Things escalated quickly. One of the mining ships attempted to flee, its engines flaring as it tried to break away. The Krillians fired a warning shot, narrowly missing the vessel. Panic erupted among the human crews, and one of them retaliated, launching a missile that struck the Krillian patrol ship. The explosion lit up the darkness of space, sending debris spiraling into the void. Rachel's heart sank. "This is exactly what I feared," she muttered under her breath. Turning to her crew, she gave orders with urgency. "Hail both sides. Tell them to stand down before this gets worse." But it was too late. The Krillians returned fire, disabling one of the mining ships. Chaos reigned as alarms blared across the battlefield. Back on Earth, news of the skirmish spread like wildfire. Videos of the confrontation flooded the media, accompanied by conflicting reports. Some claimed the Krillians had attacked unprovoked, while others argued the humans had brought it on themselves by breaking the rules. Ethan Carter sat in his apartment, glued to the news feeds. His stomach churned as he watched footage of the damaged ships and heard accounts of casualties. He felt a pang of guilt. Had his decision to leak the documents pushed tensions over the edge? Lily placed a hand on his shoulder, trying to offer comfort, but there were no easy answers. At the Galactic Council headquarters, delegates from various species gathered in emergency session. The chamber buzzed with anger and accusations. A Krillian representative stood at the podium, his voice booming. "For years, humanity has tested our patience. Now they have crossed a line. This act of aggression cannot go unanswered." Human delegates scrambled to respond, their faces pale with worry. Ethan was called in to address the council, his presence requested by allies who hoped his diplomatic skills might calm the storm. Standing before the assembly, he took a deep breath and began to speak. "I won't deny that mistakes have been made," he said, his voice steady despite the weight of the moment. "But these actions do not represent all of humanity. There are those among us working to uphold the truce, even when it's difficult. We ask for understanding and time to resolve this crisis peacefully." His words seemed to soften some of the hostility, but not everyone was convinced. Several alien delegates whispered among themselves, shaking their heads. Ethan knew that repairing trust wouldn't happen overnight, but he also knew it was the only way forward. Meanwhile, aboard the Pioneer Rachel faced a dilemma. High Command ordered her to retreat and avoid further involvement, but she couldn't ignore the wreckage and survivors floating in space. Against protocol, she instructed her crew to launch rescue pods and bring in anyone they could save, human or Krillian. As the survivors were brought aboard, Rachel met a young Krillian pilot named Zenara. Her armor was scorched, and her expression was wary, but she nodded in gratitude when Rachel offered assistance. In that moment, Rachel realized that not all hope was lost. If individuals could set aside their differences, maybe peace still had a chance, even in the face of war. The aftermath of the skirmish left a heavy silence hanging over the galaxy. On board the Pioneer Captain Rachel Dawson walked through the medical bay, where injured survivors from both sides were being treated. The air smelled of antiseptic and burned metal, a grim reminder of the violence that had occurred. Zenara, the young Krillian pilot, sat on a bed, her wounds bandaged, but her expression distant. Rachel stopped beside her. "How are you feeling?" Rachel asked gently, careful to keep her tone neutral. Zenara looked up, her large eyes filled with a mix of pain and curiosity. "I've been better," she admitted, her voice soft. "But thank you for saving me. Not many humans would risk their lives for someone like me." Rachel shook her head. "We're all just trying to survive out here. It's not about species. It's about doing what's right." For a moment, they simply looked at each other, two strangers bound together by circumstance. Rachel realized then that this small act of kindness might mean more than any treaty or negotiation. If people could see past their differences, even in the heat of conflict, there was still hope for peace. Back on Earth, Ethan Carter faced mounting pressure. His appearance before the Galactic Council had bought humanity some time, but tensions continued to rise. Senator Grayson publicly denounced Ethan's efforts, accusing him of undermining Earth's security by showing weakness. Protesters gathered outside government buildings, holding signs that read asterisk, "Protect our borders" asterisk on one side, and asterisk "Stop the war" asterisk on the other. The divide among humans was growing wider every day. Ethan met with a group of trusted allies in a secure location, a small apartment tucked away in an old part of the city. Among them was Dr. Maria Lopez, a historian who specialized in interstellar relations, and Benjamin Hayes, a former military officer turned advocate for diplomacy. Together, they brainstormed ways to de-escalate the crisis. "We need to reach out directly to the Krillians," Ethan said firmly. "If we can show them that not all humans support these attacks, maybe we can prevent full-scale war." Maria nodded thoughtfully. "It's risky, but it could work. We'll need someone they trust, or at least someone willing to listen." Benjamin leaned forward, his hands clasped tightly. "What if we send a message through the crew of the asterisk Pioneer asterisk? From what I've heard, Captain Dawson has already made contact with Krillian survivors. That could be our opening." Ethan liked the idea. He reached out to Rachel via secure communication, explaining the plan. At first, Rachel hesitated. Her orders were clear: stay neutral and avoid further involvement. But after speaking with Zanera and seeing the toll the conflict had taken on both sides, she agreed to help. Using a neutral communication channel, Rachel arranged a meeting with Zanera's superiors. She explained that humanity wasn't united in its actions, that there were those working tirelessly to restore balance. To her surprise, the Krillian leaders listened. They didn't promise forgiveness, but they agreed to consider a temporary halt to hostilities while negotiations took place. Word of Rachel's efforts reached Earth, sparking mixed reactions. Some praised her bravery, while others accused her of overstepping her authority. High Command summoned her for questioning, threatening disciplinary action. Yet even as she faced potential consequences, Rachel felt a sense of purpose. For the first time since the truce began to crumble, there was a glimmer of progress. Meanwhile, Ethan worked tirelessly to rally support for peace. He gave interviews, wrote articles, and spoke at rallies, urging people to focus on cooperation rather than division. Lily stood by his side, offering quiet strength when he doubted himself. Slowly, his message began to resonate, not just with humans, but with members of other species who feared another galactic war. Yet beneath the surface, trouble brewed. Shadowy figures within Earth's government worked to sabotage the fragile negotiations. False reports surfaced, claiming the Krillians were secretly amassing forces for an attack. Fear spread quickly, threatening to undo everything Ethan, Rachel, and others had fought for. As days turned into weeks, the galaxy held its breath. Would humanity and the Krillians find common ground? Or would the cycle of mistrust and violence consume them all? The answer remained uncertain, but one thing was clear. The choices made in the coming days would shape the future of countless lives. Ethan Carter stood on the edge of a Martian plateau, the red dust swirling around his boots as he gazed at the distant horizon. The air was thin, cold, and carried an eerie stillness that matched the weight of his mission. Beside him, Dr. Maria Lopez adjusted her breathing mask, her eyes scanning the barren landscape. They had traveled to Mars to meet with representatives of the Krillians, hoping to broker a fragile ceasefire before war consumed the galaxy. The meeting point was a neutral space station orbiting the planet, provided by the Galactic Council as a gesture of goodwill. Ethan knew this was their last chance. If negotiations failed here, there would be no turning back. "Are you ready?" Maria asked, her voice muffled by the mask, but filled with quiet determination. Ethan nodded, though doubt lingered in his mind. "As ready as I'll ever be." A shuttle arrived to transport them to the station. Inside, the atmosphere was tense. Ethan's group included Benjamin Hayes, whose military background gave him insight into strategic matters, and 2 junior diplomats who had volunteered despite the risks. As they approached the station, Ethan noticed how silent everyone had become. Even Maria, usually so composed, seemed uneasy. On board the station, Zenera awaited them. She had become a key figure in bridging the gap between humans and Krillians after her rescue by Rachel Dawson. Her presence was a symbol of hope, though her expression remained guarded. Behind her stood several high-ranking Krillian officers, their armor gleaming under the artificial lights. The room was stark and functional, designed to minimize distractions during sensitive talks. Ethan stepped forward, his hands raised slightly in a gesture of peace. "Thank you for agreeing to meet with us," he began, his voice steady. "We know trust has been broken, but we believe it can be rebuilt if we're willing to try." One of the Krillian leaders, a tall figure named Varnuk, responded in a deep, resonant tone. "Your words carry weight, human, but actions speak louder. How do we know this is not another trick?" Benjamin stepped forward, his voice calm but firm. "We understand your concerns. To prove our sincerity, we propose dismantling all illegal mining operations in the neutral zone within the next 30 days. In return, we ask for a temporary halt to hostilities while we work toward a permanent solution." Varnuk exchanged glances with his comrades before nodding slowly. "This is acceptable for now. But know this: any further violations will be met with force." Relief washed over Ethan, though he knew the hardest part lay ahead. Implementing such measures would require cooperation from factions within Earth's government that opposed peace. Still, this agreement was a step forward, a lifeline in a sea of chaos. Meanwhile, aboard the Pioneer, Rachel Dawson faced her own challenges. High Command had summoned her back to Earth for a formal inquiry into her decision to rescue Krillian survivors. As her ship entered Earth's orbit, she prepared herself for what was to come. Her crew rallied around her, offering support and vowing to testify on her behalf if needed. Rachel appreciated their loyalty, but couldn't shake the feeling that she might lose everything she had worked for. Back on Earth, Senator Grayson watched the unfolding events with growing frustration. He had hoped the conflict would unite humanity under a banner of strength, but instead, it exposed divisions he hadn't anticipated. Rumors spread that rogue operatives loyal to him were planning to disrupt the ceasefire. Ethan caught wind of these whispers and realized time was running out. If they didn't act quickly, the fragile accord could collapse. Despite the obstacles, small victories began to emerge. Public opinion shifted slightly in favor of peace, thanks in part to Ethan's relentless advocacy. Reports surfaced of human and Krillian engineers working together to repair damaged infrastructure near the neutral zone. These gestures, though modest, planted seeds of understanding. As Ethan boarded a shuttle to return to Earth, he allowed himself a moment of hope. The path ahead was fraught with danger, but the galaxy had taken its first tentative steps toward reconciliation. For now, that was enough. The shuttle carrying Ethan Carter descended through Earth's atmosphere, its metal frame glowing red-hot as it pierced the clouds. Outside the window, the blue-green planet stretched out below, a stark contrast to the cold emptiness of space. Ethan stared at the horizon, his mind heavy with the weight of what lay ahead. The fragile ceasefire he had helped negotiate was hanging by a thread, and powerful forces were working against it. Back on Earth, tensions simmered beneath the surface. Senator Grayson paced his office, his sharp features twisted in frustration. He had hoped the conflict would rally humanity under a banner of strength, but instead, divisions deepened. Reports of human and Krillian engineers collaborating near the neutral zone infuriated him. To Grayson, such gestures reeked of weakness, and he was determined to stop them. In a dimly lit room, Grayson met with two shadowy figures, agents loyal to his cause. "We can't let this ceasefire hold," he said, his voice low but firm. "If we don't act now, it will embolden our enemies and weaken us further." One of the agents nodded. "What do you propose, sir?" Grayson leaned forward, his eyes glinting with determination. "Sabotage the repair efforts. Make it look like the Krillians are responsible. If humanity believes they're being attacked again, they'll demand retaliation, and I'll make sure they get it." Meanwhile, aboard the Pioneer, Captain Rachel Dawson faced her own battle. High Command had summoned her for a formal inquiry into her actions during the skirmish. As she stepped off the shuttle onto the military base, she was greeted by stern-faced officers who escorted her to a conference room. Inside, a panel of senior commanders awaited her, their expressions unreadable. "Captain Dawson," one of them began, "you are here to explain your decision to disobey direct orders and rescue Krillian survivors. Such actions could have jeopardized the mission and possibly started a war." Rachel stood tall, her voice steady despite the pressure. "With respect, sir, my duty is not just to follow orders. It's to protect lives, regardless of species. If I had done nothing, the situation would have been far worse." The room fell silent as the panel exchanged glances. One officer spoke up, his tone softer than the others. "Your actions have sparked debate, even admiration in some circles, but they also raise questions about discipline within the fleet." Rachel met his gaze without flinching. "I understand the risks I took, but I stand by my choices. Sometimes doing what's right means going against protocol." While Rachel defended her decisions, Ethan worked tirelessly to counteract Grayson's plans. He received a tip from an anonymous source about the sabotage plot targeting the joint repair efforts. With no time to waste, he contacted Maria and Benjamin, asking for their help to expose the conspiracy before it succeeded. Under the cover of darkness, Ethan and his team traveled to the site of the repairs, a remote outpost near the neutral zone. There, human and Krillian workers labored side by side, their shared goal creating an unlikely bond. Ethan approached Zinara, who was overseeing the operation. "We have reason to believe someone is planning to attack this location," he explained urgently. "You need to increase security, and fast." Zinara's eyes widened in alarm. "Who would do such a thing?" "We don't know yet," Ethan admitted, "but we're working to find out." As dawn broke, the sabotage attempt unfolded. A small drone armed with explosives approached the outpost, its movements swift and precise. But thanks to Ethan's warning, the workers spotted it in time. Human and Krillian guards worked together to disable the threat, averting disaster. When news of the foiled attack reached the Galactic Council, it sparked outrage, but also renewed calls for unity. Rachel's hearing concluded with mixed results. While she faced reprimands for insubordination, many praised her courage and compassion. Her story inspired others to question blind obedience and consider the greater good. Though the galaxy remained fragile, moments of cooperation continued to shine through the cracks of mistrust. For Ethan, Rachel, and countless others, these small victories proved that peace was possible, if only people were willing to fight for it. The aftermath of the foiled sabotage attempt sent shockwaves through the galaxy. News of the attack spread quickly, sparking outrage among both humans and Krillians. Many saw it as proof that peace was under threat, not just from external enemies, but from within humanity itself. Senator Grayson denied any involvement, but whispers of his role in the conspiracy began to surface. Ethan Carter knew they needed concrete evidence to expose him, or the cycle of mistrust would continue. Ethan worked tirelessly with Maria and Benjamin to gather information. They traced the drone used in the attack back to a secretive facility on Earth's moon, owned by a corporation linked to Grayson's allies. The pieces were falling into place, but time was running out. If Grayson realized they were closing in, he might escalate his plans, or disappear entirely. Meanwhile, aboard the Pioneer Rachel Dawson received orders to escort a delegation of Krillian leaders to Earth for an emergency session of the Galactic Council. It was a risky move, bringing high-ranking Krillians into human territory, but it showed their willingness to cooperate. Rachel felt a flicker of hope as she watched Zinara board the ship alongside her comrades. For the first time in weeks, the future seemed less bleak. As the Pioneer approached Earth, Rachel prepared her crew for the delicate mission ahead. "Remember," she told them during a briefing, "this isn't just about diplomacy. It's about proving we can work together. Every action matters." On Earth, tensions boiled over. Protesters filled the streets outside the council chambers, some chanting slogans for peace, others demanding retaliation against the Krillians. Inside, delegates from dozens of species gathered, their expressions tense but hopeful. Ethan stood at the podium, his heart pounding as he addressed the assembly. "We stand at a crossroads," he began, his voice steady despite the weight of the moment. "The choice before us is clear. We can let fear and division drive us back to war, or we can choose understanding and cooperation. Today, I present evidence that rogue elements within humanity have sought to undermine this truce. These actions do not represent all of us, and we must hold those responsible accountable." He displayed documents and footage linking Grayson to the sabotage plot. Gasps rippled through the chamber as the truth came to light. Grayson, seated among the human delegation, shot to his feet. "This is slander," he shouted, his face red with anger. "These accusations are baseless." But the damage was done. Even some of Grayson's supporters began to distance themselves, unwilling to be associated with betrayal. The Krillian representatives exchanged glances, their expressions unreadable. Varnock, the leader who had negotiated the temporary ceasefire, finally spoke. "This revelation troubles us deeply. However, we recognize that not all humans share this guilt. We ask only that justice be served, and that steps are taken to ensure such treachery does not happen again." The Council agreed to form a joint task force comprising members from multiple species to investigate further and enforce accountability. Though progress was slow and fraught with challenges, the gesture marked a turning point. Humanity's reputation was tarnished, but there was still a chance to rebuild trust. Rachel's role in aiding the negotiations earned her unexpected praise. High Command commended her for fostering goodwill between humans and Krillians, though they reminded her sternly to follow orders in the future. She accepted the acknowledgement with quiet pride, knowing her actions had made a difference. Back home, Lily hugged Ethan tightly when he returned. "You did it," she whispered, tears in her eyes. "You gave them a reason to keep trying." Ethan smiled faintly. Exhaustion etched on his face. "It's not over yet. But maybe, just maybe, we've bought ourselves enough time to make things right." Though scars remained, the galaxy began to heal. Acts of kindness and collaboration became more common, proving that even in the darkest times, unity could shine through. For Ethan, Rachel, and countless others, these small victories were reminders that peace wasn't just a dream, it was something worth fighting for.